right, guys. Hello and welcome to the Guest Life Podcast, episode 63. We're going to spin this one on its head a little bit, and Alex is actually going to interview me today.
That would be my dream.
Just kidding. But we have the joy and the pleasure to have on 8 a.m. Masters Weekend, Alex Borondy with the Borondy Group Real Estate team. If you know real estate and you're from the city of Hamilton, you know this woman sitting across from me.
And if you don't, you will soon.
Yeah, and you will. But yeah, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I said one of our first podcasts was us interviewing you, so it's nice to turn the tables a little bit and put us on the spot. So yeah, like I said, happy to be here at 8 a.m. fully done up on Masters Weekend, because if there wasn't a video, I'd probably be in like a golf hat.
People ask me sometimes, can we do it on Zoom? I go, absolutely not. I need a hug after every podcast.
Get your butt out of bed. Let's go.
That's it. So before we get started, guys, just thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't heard the show before, we talk about entrepreneurship, how people got started, and sharing stories like Alex's today. Without entrepreneurship and people that give back, the communities that we live in are not flourishing. And without listeners like you guys, maybe being that person that's going to take that next step into the future, it'll be a lot of fun to live in a city like this.
Absolutely.
So, thanks for being here. Let's get started. So,
yes.
Alex,
dive in. What do you want to know?
You got real estate. What was your first paid job?
My first paid job has always, I did a lot of retail through, which I mean, anything that I did probably prior to like an actual career, a lot of retail, a lot of restaurant, which is a crash course in customer service that I figured out later in life, because how you deal with something when it goes wrong, especially like an angry customer for a return. You spill a tray of waters on a table of 4 at a restaurant, like you learn humility real quick.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I think the first one was, I did like holiday kiosk do you remember the It store back in the day at the mall, right? So a friend of ours was like a regional manager for a store, and she needed people seasonally. So that was my very first job, window into that world. Met some really, really fun people. It was a really crazy store. And then went on from there to, I think I did Le Chateau, I did Aldo. Like I spent a lot of time retail world before I transitioned into restaurants and bartending and all of that fun stuff. So I was destined for customer service, I think.
Do you have, it's funny, do you have one specific, say, moment or client in those customer service jobs that like defined it, whether it was like, the crazy Karen or... someone super nice, maybe leaving a big tip?
Like definitely, like when I got into, great shout out to a restaurant, it still exists in Stony Creek. It was called Mustangs. Okay. Awesome. When I went from kind of like hostessing there, waitressing, and got into bartending, but daytime bartending. Safe. And you know what? You get your regulars, you got the guys that worked, there's a lot of industry around there. Would come in at like, 3 o'clock after work, 4 o'clock, have their pint and a half or whatever, and then go home. I met some wonderful people. And you know what? And it was kind of reciprocal, right? Because they would come in and see me every day. And it's like, it didn't have to be a big tip, but it was a little tip every day that added up. And I had no problem like throwing them a beer. I'm like, guys, that one's on me. Like I appreciate even just the conversation, learning about everything they do. Like I don't think in life people ask enough questions about people. I think this is why this podcast is so great, because you don't learn anything unless you ask. So it was so many times like, what do you do? Like, you're in here every day for lunch, you seem happy, or you spend money. Like what do you do? What do you do? What do you love? What are your, like all those kinds of things. So I learned a lot about people in a very positive outlet. I mean, there's always something that went wrong. But the way, like I said, you recover from it, whether it was, I've gone in restaurants now and sent things back and they never get taken off the bill. There's no apology. You don't see your server again because they hide, right? And I think that makes the experience worse. Mm-hmm. So if you're in their face constantly, is everything okay? I'm so sorry. What else can I do? Can I get you a dessert? Can I take that off your bill? Can I get you another drink? Apologize on that end. And people are like, it's okay. It's fine. Like, I know. Like, I'm not kidding. I dropped a tray of waters on a family of 4. I almost died. I just sunk into my shoes. I went back. I was like, I can't go back out there. I can't go out there. And they're like, Alex, this is the moment. You have to go. Go back and just apologize and do whatever you can to turn the situation around, right? So outside of that, everybody was pretty good. It was probably not until I got into real estate that things, like I'll have those really bad stories, and only because it's a very emotional like transaction in people's lives. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of stress. Sometimes people just aren't nice, right? So I've been very surprised at myself, like hanging up the phone and be like, ooh, like I'm a movie person. So like A League of Their Own is one of my favorite movies. When you see Tom Hanks, like just like shake and like you just want to scream, but you hold everything together. Yeah. I've definitely had those moments and come out the other side and go like, okay, it's fine. Don't take it personal. It's not about you. Like really, they're upset about the moment or the situation, but it's, you know, and maybe you were instrumental in it, or oftentimes not. It's something the seller or the buyer did or whatever on the other end, or it's just the situation in general that's causing stress. And you just have to, you know, sometimes you have to wear it, and that's part of the job, and just, you know, fix it as best.
I love it. No, it's so right. It's not about you.
It's not about me.
It's never about you.
It's never. And I say that to my girls, like, don't take it personal. It's not about you. 9 times out of 10. If you screw up, then it might be about you. But 9 times out of 10, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Most people are not forthcoming about what's happening in their relationship. Sometimes the husband's at the wife or the wife's at the husband or vice versa, right? Like that, you know, you don't know that argument that's going on. One person wants to do it, the other doesn't want to, or their finances. You don't know how underwater somebody could be or how tight their situation is. So when they're stressed or they are coming across in not a nice way, it's because there's so much going on behind the scenes that, you know, it's not about me, and you just have to be able to, you know, keep that situation as calm and as easy for them and take away, like I always say, that's our job, is to hide and shelter our clients from all of the stress. If I make this feel easy and smooth for you, then I've done my job. Yeah. There's things that people call me, you have to tell your seller this. I'm like, I'm not telling them that. Like I will deal with it, and they will never know. Yeah. Because this is stressful enough for them. So the more I can take off their plate, the better.
Yeah. And as the professional.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I have some people that run to their clients with every little thing. I'm like, this must feel like the most stressful process when you get bogged down with every little detail of things that are going on behind the scenes. Like,
and the IT store was the foundation for
that. Keeping kids out of the X-rated. Yeah. just like I said, just that customer service in general, learning all of those along the way, you know, different personality types, right? And different situations. And like I said, it's experience. You're never going to get it day one, and you're going to fumble through a lot. But as long as you learn at each situation where you mess up or something goes wrong, and watching people, like watching the manager deal with it, especially as a new person, right? If there was an issue, the manager would normally take over. Okay. Watching, listening, like, 'cause it's their experience, right? Even I got into real estate and I worked for a team as a buying agent, learning the objection handling when a seller said, no, I don't want to reduce, or no, I'm not going to take that price. Like in my mind, I'd be like, oh God, like, okay, then we're just not going to do it. And listening to the objection handling, and it's not even selling, it's the education. Okay, well, if you don't do this, are you okay with this? Like giving them options, situations, like, can we do this then instead? Can we do this? Like, where does that make you happy? You have to learn all that. You have to see it, experience it, to be able to like internalize it, and that becomes your approach.
I love it. I think it relates to so many different things in terms of understanding confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a super nervous real estate agent when I got into it. I think I had to be in my mid-20s. I still lived at home with my mom. I didn't own a house. So like, how do you sell something or educate somebody on a product that you don't have, right? How do you sell a furnace and the importance of it? Plumbing, anything, when you really don't know it. Real estate wasn't cool when I got back in. There was no shows, and people didn't know as much about housing, and my parents never moved, you know, after I was like 3. So like that was not a thing. So when I got into it, and I remember going to my first home inspection with these clients, and the inspector was going through like all this itinerary of stuff that was wrong, and I would say, yeah, so, you know, can you explain eaves troughs again, just in case they don't understand? And really, because it was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what an eves trough is. I don't know what half of these things do. Does. Yeah. So I don't know to tell them if this is a big deal or not, because I have no idea. So I was super nervous learning all of these things along the way. Now the home inspector could go through and say, okay, Here's what goes on in my house. Here's what, 4,000 of my other sellers have experienced on their house. This is very normal, or this is what it costs to fix. And that's just, it happens over time. It's never going to happen day one. So you're just nervous at everything. Your first sales call, like, do you want to sell? Do you want to buy? I have no idea. No? Sure. Okay, fine. And run out the door.
Either way is fine. I just have to make this call. So, we talked about, obviously, everybody knows you as the realtor. Mm-hmm. And then we're talking about, you said just on university you got into it. Mm-hmm. What was that like? What was the...
Yeah, I didn't really... I've always been a big sports person. It's a family thing. We've always been into sports. I've played sports my whole life. I actually went through high school thinking I wanted to do kinesiology.
Okay.
I wanted to do sports medicine. And I took biology and just did miserable. And I was like, I don't care how plants reproduce. And why do I need to know this to fix an ankle? I was like, maybe this isn't my path, right? Flipped everything, translated into business courses. I said, okay, at least if I have a fundamental base, I can figure out where I'm going on the other end. So came out of that.
What school was that?
I went to Cardinal Newman High School, and then I went to McMaster and did a business degree at Mac.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So I liked the marketing aspect of things. I wasn't a big accounting person. HR didn't care. Finance, these were your 4 majors, right? So I did the marketing and thought, like everybody, I'm going to do advertising or something like that. And unless you're going to go work in a big ad agency in Chicago, here, you're going to make flyers in somebody's back office, right? So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I talked to somebody that was in property appraisals. I thought, okay, that might be interesting. Enrolled in that course. No offense to my appraisers out there. I love you guys. Super, super dull for me.
Is this at McMaster?
After.
Oh, okay.
So after Mac, did the business degree. University of BC, I registered. You do an online appraisal course. Yep. Started that and just found it really dull. And I remember shadowing one, and it was you walk through a house for 10 minutes and you go home and spend 6 hours writing a report. I'm like, this is not me. I'm a social, I'm a butterfly. I want to be out. I want to see people. Right.
So just a question on that with Mac. So for anybody that's listening and talking about, again, I didn't take a business degree or course. Did you gather a lot of information then in terms of one of the things that's come up in the past is talking about they should teach us about mortgages and interest rates in high school. It's well, yeah, but you're not thinking about that. So they could teach you, but you're not going to retain it because it's not top of mind. The business, of course, at Mac, just out of interest, how was that course?
I loved it. I mean, I think it was a introduction into numerous different fields. I find now, I think I needed to mature anyway. I think I spent 4 years maturing. I think that's, if I had come out of high school and gone right into real estate, I think there was so much just world knowledge that I wouldn't have had, right? Writing a real estate exam, people didn't know how to do a Scantron test. I was like, come on, guys, from the very fundamentals of it. But taking the economics, learning economics 101, especially for where I am now, where any of us that run a business, we have to know the supply and demand and the pricing and all of that kind of stuff. The marketing side of it, we had to do business planning and proposals for companies. That was one of our projects or whatever. So we would go out to, I think I did a storage facility, we did a restaurant, trying to establish where the competitors are in the market. What are they doing? What do we suggest you do?
Really?
Phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
That absolutely, that I could do in my own business every year. Study your competition, know what they're doing. Where can you position yourself differently? I thought all of that was super critical. Some of the, like I said, some of the HR stuff, accounting. Yeah, absolutely. I think that just if you're going to be in business at all, there's some fundamentals there that I think I would have figured out along the way, but a lot later. I think now when I listen to an economic presentation or something like that, somebody else on my team, Nicole's always our first one. She's like, I don't know what they're saying. Whatever. You explain it to me. I get where they're coming from because this is things I learned so many years ago, just on a very base level. So I think you can take it and kind of run with it in any industry. To me, if you don't know what you want to do, but you think there's a business element to it, absolutely. Spend the time, learn it.
That's such a good recommendation. And I like how you talked about growing up, maturing, right?
Yeah.
People talk about getting into the trades young and just out of high school. I'm like, some people are not adults yet.
You can see it in the way they handle the approach to business. And reasons why, people don't want to go to things. Oh, it's too early, or it's, it's not my problem. Like, I think there's such an immaturity in that. Like, grow up. This is your business. If you have to get up early to attend something, you just do it.
Like a Saturday morning podcast.
Like a Saturday morning podcast on Masters Weekend at 8 a.m. in person on video. No, I love it. But you do it, right? You do it because you said
yes. And just for everybody listening, and this is like why, me and Alex get along so much, but also the entrepreneur space is so like, it's almost funny. It's comical because we see everybody at all the events. It's not that everybody's at every event. Nope. And when someone has a child, because they're there less. And you're like, what's going on with Bill?
Yeah.
Where's Bill? Oh, Bill just had a kid. Right? Like, oh, he's a parent now.
Bill hasn't slept in 2 months.
Yeah. Or, there's a new relationship around. Oh, they're not here yet. Yeah. But other than that, it's of course I'm going to be there.
Yeah. My business allows me to do the things I want to do in my personal life. So this is always going to be front and center of my life. There will not be there's no excuse for it. Nothing. I may not want to be there all the time, but I'm going to show up.
100%.
And you're going to show up with your hair brushed and you're showered and your clothes aren't wrinkled. Like, you're going to bring your best foot forward. I'm sorry, but like everything I do, from when I go to the grocery store, I'm seeing people and people are seeing me. I am my business 24/7. So if I look like I'm never working or I just rolled out of bed, you don't realize what people index in their mind about you visually, right? All the time. Where is she? What is she doing? What does she look like? What's the public persona? Like, we do reputational management. I'm like, guys, like, thank God there wasn't video when we were back in high school and all this silly partying. And, I feel bad for kids today. There's like, you don't have that chance to be immature and make mistakes because it follows you. But as an adult, 100%. Like, we better be aware of it. Absolutely. Like, there's not a thing I would put out on the internet today if my grandmother wasn't proud to see it. Okay. That's my like governing body of like my life. Right.
I love it. I showed up to my office one day in shorts, or I don't know. I think I was wearing like running shoes. Maybe I came from the gym. Yeah. And everyone was like, who the hell is that guy? Right? It's like, it was like shocking.
This is our boss, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying you're not going to have those moments. There's definitely times when
he is a human.
Yeah. People will call and say like, hey, Alex, like, is there any chance you can see this house in like 2 hours with us? Like, we're really excited. Like, I might be just finishing staging a house and I'm like in dust and sweat and whatever. I'm like, no problem. I will make that happen for you. I'm not going to look like I normally look, but whatever. At the end of the day, the business will carry on, but I'm not going to do that every day. I owe them the respect and the professionalism to look like I earn it.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's unique for a lot of people. And people talk about like, well, I don't have to wear the suit. I don't wear the suit anymore. And I think, for men and women, you have to wear the suit until you don't have to wear the suit because you've earned the right not to. Right?
Absolutely.
And like the confident, a lot of the business owners that I connect with are older than me. And like there's some that are 3-piece suit every day, perfect tie. And there's some that have understood that it's more casual.
Yep.
But I guarantee it, when they were younger, they were not. And that's how it works, right? And I think a lot of the people misconcept things and definitely lose out on business because they're not as professional as they should be.
100%.
And yeah, it's fine. And, your buddies are good with it. But that person looking at you that doesn't know you is not going to know that you're a professional.
Absolutely not. And like dress for your confidence, like whatever makes you feel really good. And like, I know my thing, like I'm going in there. Right. So whether that's, if a 3-piece suit makes you feel like on top of the world and I got this, then wear that. If it's, jeans and a blazer, I don't care what it is, as long as you look put together head to toe. The sweatsuit, I'm not for it. To me, there's a time and a place for it. I'm not saying like I will have a Borondy group like sweatshirt on a Saturday maybe if we're going through, or if I'm looking at farm property, or if I'm crawling in the basement of a house in central Hamilton and I'm coming up with cobweb. Like, no, am I going to be the selling sunset stilettos and miniskirt? No, absolutely not. That doesn't allow me to do the job the way I want, but it's going to be jewelry's on, makeup on, hair done. Maybe it's all black. That's usually my uniform, right? I'm going to look the part. I don't even take it for granted with my friends. Like, my friends are my biggest, I'm so lucky. They are my biggest supporters of my business. Yeah. Not because I scare them into it. I don't ask them to. They refer me to everyone because they honestly believe I'm really great at what I do. and I want to earn that for them. Like referrals come from trust. You have to trust that I'm the best in the business. And that's why when you give me to one of your friends, that's a reflection on them. And I know that.
And showing it, right? Like, you know, I think it's so important as I find that when you first get into business, sorry, we're going to jump back and forth here, but when you first get into business, you talk about you're different all of a sudden, especially from a business side, right? And then, so you kind of pull back on talking about business. But what I've noticed lately is the more I talk about where my business is at with the business, most of my friends are in business, it ends up building their confidence in what my product is to offer. And then they're telling a story about what I'm doing to help somebody else. And then that gives them the confidence. Just like, you talking about your sales assistant. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, what a good story. And then now if I have, a realtor friend that's going through thinking about an assistant, I'm going to tell them the story about what you're doing. And they're going to be like, oh, Alex does that? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, she's very successful. Maybe that's something I could do. And actually, what a lot of people, I'm finding that there's a lot more, maybe synergy is a word, but like connection between people in the same industry instead of competition. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of, there's agents that I looked up to, like even when I started, they're different people today. People that call, I was in my office in Ancaster the other day, and I've had this listing for a year, and now we've got it conditionally sold. And this agent in my office is like, Alex, I saw that. I'm so happy for you, but I'm so curious. How did you keep that relationship with that seller for a year? Yeah. Because she's like, when I don't sell something in a couple months, they're doubting that it's me. They're saying it's my fault, and they want to try somebody else. So she goes, I looked at that and was like, that's so great that she did that. I was happy. She goes, but I was like, I have to call her and find out, what did you do to keep that seller engaged with you? And I was like, that's super interesting that, even in your own world, people are watching you but want to learn from you. It's not she's not mad about it, she could have lost that and I would have had it. It's not, I think GTA, I've heard it's a little bit more competitive that way. I don't know if it's, and other companies I can't speak to. I just know our little ecosystem is super supportive. If I win and you win and we all win, our brand wins, you know what I mean? There's enough business to go around. And again, your tribe's not mine, right? We probably don't compete a lot with the same people. So if you're new in the business or you just want some advice on how I got here, I'm happy to share it, and vice versa. There's young guys, I know you've had Alex Hill on the podcast, Justin Little. They've been in it way less than I have, but they're doing some rock star things. I like them a lot, and I'll watch what they do. I'm always watching my competition, but I'm happy for them. As long as they're good people, I'm happy for them. Of course. And isn't it funny, because there was probably not a doubt in your mind that you're going to sell that property. No. And it wasn't, but say you were 22 or 23 getting into it, you'd be like, oh my God, what if they leave? You'd be like, we got to get this property sold. Yeah. You can't leave. Yeah. It's devastating, and because you're invested. That's the beauty of real estate, right? You spend money, you're invested in it, but it's, it's an education the whole way. The number one complaint about real estate agents is communication. When I put up my house, I never heard from my agent again, or, you just don't hear from them, right? So it's, whether it's doing a 30-day report card or engaging, okay, let's talk about the other ones that sold that we didn't. What are we doing that somebody would have picked that one over us? Are we exposed enough? Do we have enough eyeballs on the listing? Am I doing my job? Keeping myself accountable to them. Totally. Am I getting enough showings? What else could I do? If I'm exhausting all my efforts and we're getting showings, I can't force somebody pen to paper, but if I'm doing everything I can and it's just the market or timing, or we haven't found our buyer yet, we just need the one, we haven't found our person yet, then let's just keep staying the course. Unless you think somebody else is going to come in and do something different or better, but it's on me to prove that they're not going to, right? Yeah. So what was, if there's was there an aha moment for you in your career to kind of take it to the level that it's at today? Yeah, it took a long time. When you first start, now I always say to my girls, we don't live and die by one transaction. And I think that's really changed how we advise clients. You can see it on people that are struggling in this business, and maybe they, the average realtor does less than 4 houses a year, right? Less than 4. Really? Yeah, I think there's I think it's 0.5%, even in the GTA, that sell more than 30 a year. And that's where we are. We're well beyond the average real estate agent. But if you only do 2 houses a year, and that's your income,
I get that if you get an offer and it's not right for the seller, why they might be more like, we need to do this because I have no money, I need to get paid. Like I've seen that agent that's not doing well and and they wear it, right? You can see it in them. Like building to a point where if this house doesn't sell, it doesn't matter. That client doesn't like you or you want to fire them or vice versa or whatever, we go on to the next. Like we're not governed by one. We do enough volume that like if an offer comes in and I say to my seller, like, look, this is a great offer. If you don't want it, that's fine. This is for you. Whatever makes you happy. If this is the right price, but you want me to go back and like fight to the death for another 5,000, no problem. I will do that because that's like what you want. And I'm your like instrument to go do that, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter to me because this isn't my only sale this year. So whatever, we're going to move on and if it never works out, whatever. Like it takes a long time to get to that point.
Yes.
So that's why I would say like new guys, like maybe join a team, like, because the hardest thing in business is lead generation, is to get people.
Okay.
Like when I was there, people didn't move. Nobody knew real estate agents. We didn't have family. Like I didn't really know the business I was getting in.
People weren't moving?
Like I just didn't know people. Like my whole family, like nobody moved. Most of the people were still in their house. My friends' parents are like, they're still in the houses that they grew up in. Like it just wasn't a thing, right? Fast forward 10 or 15 years, people are moving every 2 to 5 years. You've got, you can name probably 10 real estate agents that you know, right?
100.
Like 100. Okay. Everybody knows somebody. People have investment properties. Like it's the sexy thing, real estate, right?
I think that is a statement too. And I was wondering this about entrepreneurship, which is because right now, for instance, I'm getting peppered with acquisitions.
Ooh.
I didn't even know what the word acquisition meant. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this just a thing? Or am I in a new space in my business? And it's like, oh my goodness, right? And I think it's like, that's one of the most challenging things when people talk to me about real estate is at an entry-level realtor, just like you said, which I love that you shared, I don't own a home, but I'm giving you advice on what to buy. And so it's like, okay, this is a challenge. And this is like a little bit of imposter syndrome.
100%.
Just like me. You want to give me $100,000 job that I don't know how to manage or do, or I've never done before, but I think I can do it. And let's go. So you got to build in that confidence. And I think that's so like interesting to hear it from a different industry.
Yeah, you have to like that's why like I worked with people so that it's like I wasn't the sole advisor to these people because I didn't know how to play something. Like even there's a negotiation tactic. Like you can go through your business degree, you can go through your real estate training. There is absolutely zero training on negotiation, none. And that is like the cornerstone of our business. Some agents talk too much. When I get on the phone with them, like, hey, okay, so you're going to bring me an offer. Tell me about your people. Well, that's all I have to say. They'll sing like a canary. Oh my gosh, my clients, they inherited all this money and, they have this and they have that and, they got to be out in 30 and they're giving away their client's position. I'm like, fantastic. I'm like, so now I'm going to go back to my people and say, they got a ton of money. We're going to squeeze them for. They're on a deadline. So now we know we've got them and they have to make a decision. Like all of these things, like they don't even realize, like you don't, like people say too much. Like, I'm like, just stop talking. Like, just say less. Like there's just so much in that sales training that people don't know, and you don't know it early enough. And that's why I said like partnering up with people, listening to how they deliver information, how you, like I said, it's not a rebuttal. Like if a seller says, well, this is what I want. Okay, so if we do this and this happens, are you okay with this? If we do this instead and we get this result, is this what you're looking for? Like you're only as good as your plan B. So if we do that and that doesn't work out, then what? Because I got to know what I'm going to go back and negotiate with. I need to know our next step. Because if we're going to get euchred and we try this and it doesn't work, and you're going to be mad and say, okay, well, Alex, forget it. Let's go back and do it. Like, we're going to lose our position, right? Like, we're coming from a position of strength right now. That's a great way to negotiate. If we lose that, like people would say, oh, we got 7 more showings. Let's just wait. I go, but what happens after the 7 showings if we have no other interest? Now we got to go back hat in hand and say, well, nobody else wants us. Will you still take our counter offer now? Things like that.
It's so interesting because I've never really thought about it like that. I've never really thought about, I read a book called Negotiate Without Fear.
Okay.
because I'm a horrible negotiator because I don't want to be cheap. And I think that was instilled with me coming from a Jewish heritage, where some of my family members were inherently like, it was like, your energy is going to the discount and my energy is going to abundance. And I failed to understand the strategy of actual negotiation.
Yep.
Right? Because on certain negotiations, when it comes to business, I don't want to go negotiate a job and then have somebody not happy with that, because that's a different relationship where I don't give a shit about the seller or buyer of the house. Like the deal is done. It's a one, I don't have to see you again. What I do have to have the relationship with is my real estate agent. Right. And I think that's just, I've never really had it depicted like that, but yeah, it's understanding it, but also it's like, people, like, where are you at and what do you need and why you need it?
Yeah, you have to understand, I can't negotiate for you unless I know your situation. I got to know the whole picture, guys. Let me in on the whole thing. Like, I know there's like an apprehensiveness of people to say, like, I don't want to let you know my bottom line because then you're going to go tell the buyer, let's say, and then the offer's going to come in and that, like, well, we could have got more. That's a trust issue across real estate in general, right? Because people feel it's a very self-serving industry, which is fair. So you have to learn, or they have to trust you. I'm like, don't work with me unless you trust me implicitly, because I need to know all the pieces. I need to know all those moving parts to make sure that I'm putting you in the best position. So if you give me instructions and I just go blindly and fight, but not know what the alternate situation is, like, well, Alex, we really needed that because X, Y, and Z, then I'm not negotiating with all of the information and we're not going to end up with the result that everybody wants, right? So I need to be like, think of me, I'm your advisor.
Yeah.
Like, and I've built that with people along the way. Again, it takes time. Like, you can't come into this business overnight and have trust. That takes time. But I have clients that call me now and say, Alex, I want to buy in Costa Rica. I'm like, okay, great. They're like, but we don't make a real estate move without you. I don't know anything about Costa Rica. They're like, can I send you the contract? Can you just look at it? Because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely. I will look at it. I'm not an expert in it, but there's things about the general business that I understand. I'm like, okay, have you thought about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Ask this question. I'm going to a conference. I'll find a Costa Rica person, independent, that can give you advice on the location and other things that I might not know. Amazing. I need to be able to call people and say, hey, are you doing anything with that property? Because the market is booming. If you don't, like, we should unload that now at a max, right? Instead of like waiting for them to call. Like, you have to treat everything, and that's how you build the trust, because you always have to be looking out for their best interest, not yours, which is a very unusual thing, again, in our business, where their success, you're a direct payment, right? That everybody like, oh, you want us to sell for more because you make more money. I'm like, well, like, guys, work in percentages. Like, we make like $5 more. It doesn't really matter. But to the guy that only does 3 transactions a year, yeah. I don't know why they trust these. We've seen like so many agents that come in. I'm doing my brother's house, my sister's house. Like, I do this part-time, whatever. Yeah. The offers are horribly written. Like, there's things that I look for. I'm like, they didn't include this, this, and this. Like, yikes. Like, if they move in, they didn't protect their people, that's going to be working, or whatever it is. I go, like, people don't realize. They probably think like, oh, I'm just using my brother, but what it's costing them. Like, I already know the offer comes in. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we were going to reduce way below that. Like, it's not worth that. But if they want to pay it because the guy doesn't know the area or hasn't done the research, like, I don't know how you're looking after the client that way.
Well, and I think a lot of clients going into it, I remember vividly my first purchase, and I knew I was going to be a pain because I was young and scared and fearful and probably going to go see a million houses. And so I used someone I didn't know. I didn't want to know them. I didn't really have a lot of people that I knew were real estate agents, but it was more at the time, because again, I wasn't an entrepreneur when I bought my first house. So it would have been a family friend.
Okay. Yeah.
That would have been the first referral. And I was like, no, I know myself. This is going to be a nightmare. And and then I had to deal with a stranger. And it was like, I cold called a real estate thing. And like, you know how that works. Usually you get the
whoever's in the office that day or answer the phone.
Yeah. And like, I didn't have a clue. And going through that process was horrible. I had to let her go because I was young, but at least aware that she didn't do the offer properly on 2 houses. And just got no guiding advice. And then had another guy that was kind of referred. And, I'm like picking areas.
Yeah.
And he was showing me completely different areas.
Like, you're not listening.
You're not asking the questions. And you're not getting to know the person. Do you find that a lot of people in your industry, like when you're, I'm sure with your confidence, it doesn't happen as much anymore. But at the beginning, when you were trying to get those clarifying questions, did you find that you're like, I know you're not telling me everything. Stop it.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I understand. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to I'm just kind of trying to do this. Like, I'm trying to see on the other side of what you're saying. Like, okay, we're going to get there. Like, sometimes it's going to take time. Like, we're going to again, maybe they don't trust me. You have to look inwards a little bit. Say, totally. Why aren't you giving me the full story? Did we just meet? Again, I don't trust anybody I just met. Mm-hmm. If it comes with a referral from a friend or somebody they know that had a great experience, the doors open a little bit. Yeah. But I still have to earn that. So totally. I say, okay, so I hear what you're saying, and we're going to circle back on this. But I'm going to in a different way. It's not going to be a direct, I don't feel like you're telling me the truth. I'd be like, okay, so if we get into, this house, can you renovate? Do you have extra money to renovate? Start asking other questions that divert, no, because, although I said we're selling for this and we can only buy for this, we have a line of credit, we got to pay. But people are, especially about money, people are very embarrassed to talk about money. And ours is, I'm like, guys, I have to ask you these questions. I have to know where your deposit's coming from. I have to know, is it readily accessible in 24 hours?
And do you do that vetting process at the beginning now?
Yeah. When we talk about it, especially because I'm like, we just can't get to the 11th hour when we find the right house. You get an accepted offer and I need your deposit in 24 hours. And you're like, oh, well, it's tied up in investments, or we got to borrow it from our uncle who lives in Chicago. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now we're in jeopardy of losing your deal. So everything I'm asking, and I'm trying to say it differently.
How long did that take you to get?
Oh, 10 years. Yeah. For sure. 10 years to even learn the questions, the asking it and okay, now I got to ask it differently. And I probably was one of the ones that was I'm a chatterbox. I like talking, right? And I didn't realize the power of listening or saying less. Just keep asking questions, like an elevator pitch, right? Find where are we going to get off on the same level, right?
I like that.
Yeah. You keep saying, okay, especially people that are stoic. I've had some clients I'm like, this is not going to be a fun process to go look at houses because you're not laughing. We're not joking. You're just you give me one word answers. I'm like, oh my God. You have to like your real estate agent because we spend a lot of time together. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I got to find where am I going to connect with them? So I just keep firing out questions. Eventually you'll find a spot where they'll open up. Yeah. But it takes a lot. And I think I remember just talking in those awkward silences. I would just start talking instead of, and now I don't know if I've lost them. Oh, this girl talks a lot, but it was just well, they're not talking. So I have to talk instead of just, maybe you're not asking the right questions that they want to talk about. Right.
Silence. Yeah. It's my nightmare.
I can't, the amount of times especially when we get offers on properties and they're maybe not what the client's expecting, our first reaction is to say, I got this offer and you're not going to like it. I got this offer and it's this, but if you want, just to keep talking. Sometimes the best thing is when we say, okay, I got an offer on your property, it's X. And then I just stop talking. I just let them talk. Because now if I'm answering it for them, then maybe I'm talking them out of, maybe they were like, you know what, Alex, it's been enough time. We gave it a shot. I've been surprised a ton. I always say I've been in this business. I'm never surprised, but in the sense that I don't know what people are thinking. And they're always you might not have expected this, but we're going to take it. I'm like, people have done crazier things and they're always shocking me with their decisions. So I have no expectation. Yeah. So and sometimes it's so awkward because they're not saying anything and I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, he who talks first loses. I'm like, I am not going to say a word and just let it tell me where you're at. And it's so hard. You're like, do
you want my advice?
Yeah. I'm like, but we can do it. And let them say it. Let them tell you. I don't care. Alex, you want to go back fight for whatever you want? I'm like, no problem. I'll put on my sword and my shield and I'll go to battle for you if that's what you want. No problem. But if you can't, we'll do it. I'm like, okay.
I think it's great. Switching gears a little bit, talking about elevating your network so you can elevate your net worth. So, yeah. So, over the years kind of, and it comes with age and it comes with experience and it comes with wealth, I would say, in terms of where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your time? So it is the Masters weekend.
It
so
is.
we're going to go golf. Tell me a little bit about how your network and your net worth over the last couple of years has kind of grown and adapted.
Yeah. So like I said, the hardest part about being an entrepreneur in any business is the lead generation. Like I said, everybody knows 1,000 real estate agents. You probably know 10 plumbers. Like everybody, especially now, I find more people are more in that entrepreneurial world and want to work for themselves. There's a lot of people that you know. So I'm not a big proponent of Google pay-per-click ads or billboards. That's just not me. I want to work with people who are like me. And I say to my girls on my team all the time, you got to find your tribe. Find the people who are like you, because it will make your business more enjoyable to deal with people that you like, right?
Find your tribe, just like the Coles knows here. Find your tribe.
Take anything,
that was a big one.
You take
for
anything
me
from this, find your tribe, find your people.
Yeah.
There are people that are going to trust you, think like you. You're going to enjoy that time spent together. So find people that have common interests. So what are your interests? What do you like doing outside of real estate? I mean, I can find 1,000 people that like investing in real estate, but what do I like doing outside of that?
Yeah.
Where I'm going to meet more people. That's the goal. And I said, guys, you have to go out and meet people every day, every week, every month. I don't care if you're on vacation, home, whatever. Our job is to meet new people every day. That's a potential client at some point. I'm not saying go ask for the business, like hand out cards. Hi, I'm a real estate agent. Here's my card. Yeah, great. Like I throw it like this. But connect. Find a connection so you can tell your story, like you say, right? Whether it's through following them on Instagram or whatever, so that they see what you're doing and they want to be a part of what you're doing. By a client, they want to tell the story about you. So I said Masters weekend, I'm a big golfer. I haven't always been a big golfer. My family are golfers. My brother's a great golfer. I dabbled in it in my 20s and then took it up more seriously in my 30s. I've actually found a great group of female golfers, which is unusual. And we play together a lot. I've done so much business with people that I've met in the last 5 years through golf courses, tournaments, playing, because you have 18 holes, you have 4 hours to talk. So,
or listen.
Right? And everybody's favorite question is, what do you do for a living? I hate that question. I hate it. It's like, so I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I'm a real estate agent. I'm like one of 8,000, right? But what's interesting, what's different about what you do as a real estate? That's what I'm kind of trying to portray when I'm out there. So I like meeting people that way. I golf alone a lot. I'm a pretty confident person in general. And if my golf game is terrible, then we just have fun and having a few extra beers, right? But locally, or if I travel, go to Florida, I go to Napa, I will absolutely go play golf by myself and meet people.
And just so everybody that maybe doesn't golf, she goes by herself and golfs with others.
With others, yes. If you don't understand. So they will partner you up with people generally, which is always the most fun. I've golfed with people that would be like my dad, like where they're out looking for my balls in the trees, like, don't worry about it. I've golfed with 90-year-old women. Okay. In Florida, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm in their kind of shape at 90 out here, like I've won life, right? Like having a great time. You learn a lot about people in a competitive situation. I think any sport, but golf especially, like how they respond to a bad shot. How they support you if you hit a good shot. Are they competitive with you? Are they supportive? Are they fun? Are they calm? Do they take it too seriously? Like you learn a lot about, like, is this the kind of person I would work with, be friends with outside of this? It's a really interesting way to get to know people and just how they deal with life. Super, super interesting. There's people I would play with that they're fine, but I would never play with them again. I'm like, that was not enjoyable.
What an interesting complex. That is...
tempers and if I'm going to refer them in their business, like if this is your demeanor this is it's a competitive sport, but like we're not playing for the Masters today, like we're out here to have fun. If you're taking it that seriously and you're negative, like when something goes wrong in your business, or if somebody says something you don't like, how do you respond? It's a very interesting gauge on personality. So I like to find my people that way. And I've met, like playing with women, I've met investment bankers, and I've met, people that run their own businesses. Love that. I'm all supportive. Like Kevin Wynn's a good buddy of yours. Like he organizes a guys and girls tournament at our club. I've met so many people that way, different industries, which is great. And I tell the girls on my team, go find people that you are like you. And I have one on my team that has kids. And I said, she's joined the parent council, and find other moms that you guys have things in common, because these will be your clients. You don't have to ask for it. They will trust you more than somebody else, because once you have those connections and those things in common, it's just a natural. Now you're one level higher than everybody else, right? You just got to keep climbing that ladder of trust.
I love that. Yeah, such great advice. And get on your comfort zone. I just wanted to share it because I went to an incredible networking event the other day, and it was in Toronto. And for anybody who doesn't know, I've moved there to start another branch of our business. So, but I don't know anybody. So I went to this very intimate networking event, and I was kind of like thrown off because I didn't really know what it was going to be. I almost thought it was going to be a pitch. And because you had to give a little bit of a title and description of what you do. Mm-hmm. And you get there, you get a name tag, you do not, and then you get 2 cards given to you. And each card had a question.
Okay.
An intimate personal question.
Ooh.
And you're not allowed to talk about yourself, your last name or your business. So people can't look you up quick. And for an hour. And I could not believe how challenging it was, but how great it was.
Yeah.
Because the questions are, how would you describe yourself? What was your personality? Stuff like that. And it's like, it gave me so many questions to ask.
Yeah. Ask more
that
questions.
Are not business.
Yeah.
Right. And it was amazing to get to know somebody. And then they followed it up. They did a great job, but they followed it up with describing each person without giving the name, and then saying like, who's this person, and describe it. No, you couldn't have guessed in a million years. Maybe the makeup artist, because she looked put together, but other than that, it was wild. But getting to know people, and I see it a lot on the golf course, especially at nicer courses. Mm-hmm. When you go to a tournament, guy's got a nice golf bag, hitting them straight. What do you do? Yeah. Right? And they almost don't. Yeah, because people are really reluctant to talk about what they do for a living. Like at a golf course. Like I said, it's my least favorite question that I get asked, because I don't know, my job is, everybody does it the same. We do it differently, but it's not interesting. I'd rather get to a different level. Like, where are you from? Like, how did you get here? Who taught you how to play golf? Like, just dive in deeper. What they do for a living will come out. And if I say it like, sometimes I'm like, well, like, okay, so I sell houses for a living, let's say. And then but it's less like, it's like a natural, it's like a worst date question. You think of it like speed dating, right? Like, okay, what are you looking for? Like, what do you do for a living? Like, because people are looking for, like, to check boxes, but are they really interested? Are you really interested in what I do for a living? Or do you want to know me? Because there's a whole other side outside of real estate that I think is way cooler. Well, and I would say, especially as you're building your net worth, for anybody listening, as you become more established, you create more wealth. That's just entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So at an early stage of entrepreneurship, you'll get more from a wealthy person if you learn about them and their story than what they do for business. And what I've found in the past is that wealthy person people try to get him to give them business all day, every day. And no one actually, because it's hard to now categorize people of, are you taking from me or do you genuinely like me?
Flip the script. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
What can I do? Give to get, right? Put out first before you expect something in return. Because that's the big thing. Like when people go to conferences, it's always like, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. I'm like, stop doing that. Because you're asking, right? Ask them about, like I always say, like the Find Your Tribe. Like if you're sitting in a session, if you're a front row sitter, then talk to the people in the front row. Those guys are like you. The guys in the back row, these people are like me. They're like halfway in, like, do you want to get out here and get a cocktail? I want to know you.
Yeah.
Like, let's do that. How can I help you? If you're in HVAC, how can I help you? What would be a really good way that I could get people interested in your business? Not, Dan, do you know anybody that wants to sell that you can help me? How do I help you? And then you intrinsically will feel, if I start giving you business, you're going to go, oh my God, like I got to do something for Alex.
Always.
You hear somebody say, oh, I need an agent. You're like, you know what? Alex, because she's given me so much. I think you have to do that across the board. You're answering all my questions.
I don't even have to ask them.
So Dan, about you.
We're getting to the end of the podcast here. And we always ask this question, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
Think bigger.
Okay.
Think bigger. I think, and I don't know if it's, not that we're from a small town, but not like, tiny. Hamilton's a big place to grow up. But I think my expectations on life were a little bit short. Even going through high school and like what I wanted to do, I didn't know half of the careers out there, and I don't think, maybe it's a confidence thing, but I didn't think to think big enough. Yeah. Like it was just kind of, everybody's like, oh, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor. And like, it just kind of was here. But I think if you expand it, like I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love driving fast. Like why couldn't I have been a fighter jet pilot? Like why didn't I think bigger? Why didn't I, I'm a competitive athlete. Why didn't I follow that a little bit more? There's so many, elements to the sports world that I would have loved and found my true passion. Like I love real estate, sports kind of fuels, like real estate fuels my other stuff. But like, why didn't I think big enough? Like whatever, like go out, ask more questions of people, find out what's out there and think bigger, like go bigger. And then, you know what I mean? There's so much that you could do outside of just our little bubble. And I'm like, I've got friends that like, she got into construction and now she's working in New York City building high rises. Like she had enough confidence to say, I'm going to apply for this job. I always wanted to live in New York City. I'm going to just try. And they took her and she's like living this life that I'm like, I'm so proud of you because you stepped outside of your comfort zone and dreamed big enough that you tried. Yeah. Like I think that's super, super cool.
So special.
Yeah.
I love that.
Do that.
And so now that you're aware of this, what are you doing to think bigger?
I know, like everybody's like, do you want to grow your team bigger? I'm like, I do. I mean, there's always more business to go around. If I can, touch more people with our experience, even better, right? I think, real estate agents, essentially, we all do the same thing. I just think we do it better.
Of course.
Our experience is better. Our advice is better, all of that. So if I can give more people that and stop having this mediocre real estate experience, I think everyone's going to benefit. I'd love to do that. I don't know, like, would I love to like coach or speak? Sure. I think that's on everyone's radar. Once you get to a point, you're kind of like, what's next? I secretly, not so secretly now, I want to develop a golf brand.
Amazing.
Yeah. Like I want to take that. I find golf clothes for men, I've noticed men can go from work and they show up to an appointment and look quasi-professional in a collared shirt and whatever. Yeah. Like, I have a tee time at 2:00. If I show up in golf attire, I look like I'm going to golf as a woman. So I want to flip that a little bit. And I want to, every time you go into the girls section, it's like flowers and like bright colors. And this is what I look like. So absolutely not. Is that going to work? So I've decided that I want to kind of change that.
I love it.
That whole take my passion and my business and how can I marry them and do something that I would really love. And that would be kind of that's my next rung on my ladder.
Love it. And you know what? We're going to talk off stage because I got so many ideas. But I love where, and it's never been done. And it's a unique and it's
especially not in girl world. Like there's a lot of things for guys in sports. Like God bless them. It's dominated. Women in golf, I think of all sports is starting to come up a little bit. It's getting a little bit more respect.
Definitely.
I've seen it
when
you're
allowed in the golf course.
Hello, step one, right? I've seen it when I play. Like I say, you play alone and I'll somebody's got a yardage. I'll be like, oh, how far are those trees? And they'll go, don't worry about it. You can't hit them. I kind of look, I go, yeah, but how far are the trees? And they go, just hit it straight. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, here we go. And I'll hit it and launch it like well over the trees. Like I can drive over 200 yards. It's not an issue. And then they kind of turn around and go, oh, sorry about that. Like you're going to come into it with doubt already because it's not a female, dominated sport at all. Females playing by themselves. Where's your boyfriend? Where's your husband or whatever? So there's not enough for us there yet, but I think it's coming up. I've got a great golf coach. Like I said, she does a lot of women events, teaching women to play golf, how that can be instrumental in business. There's so many corporate tournaments and stuff and women are scared to play because they're not good enough or they don't know. So I think it's coming and I just want to be able to give them something where it's like you can do your business and this hobby and you don't look like a Hawaiian flower out there where it's just, I don't know.
I look like a Hawaiian flower all the time. So and I wear it to work.
Wear the Tommy Bahama.
It was so funny the other day. I was in my elevator in my condo and this guy was like, oh, I have a good golf day? I'm like, no, man, just come back from work. He's like, well, that's a golf shirt. And I was like, oh, shit. Like,
it is.
Like,
totally. You know, there is an image. There's the Ricky Fowler full color print, 100%, whatever.
Yeah, it was a forest floral. It was amazing. But,
so I'm like, where's the alternate? So it's something I want to, like find your passion. I've done so many seminars on like, what's your passion? Find your passion. They keep asking you questions like, what fulfills you? What's this? I'm like, well, if I knew that, guys, I wouldn't be in the session. Like I've been struggling to kind of find that. I'm not going on the LPGA anytime soon, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot, but I love real estate. So how do I keep the two going?
Good for you.
And that might be it. So I'll let you know.
Well,
I'll do one man shirt with a leaf on it for you.
Yeah, please. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, guys. Everybody, Alex, awesome. And that last part was the best. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Anytime. This is
for everybody. Awesome. Alex's Instagram, all her handles will be in the link in the bio. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We ask ourselves a question: why not me? Why not now? Alex is a great example of what success looks like when you put your head down and go for it and think big.
Work hard.
Yeah,
that's it, guys. Work hard.
So thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much. Love it. Cheers.
That was awesome.
That's so fun.